Welcome back. All right, news of the day video for all you fine people on the internet for your Monday, November the 4th. Good news for Avalanche fans. Yes, finally some good news for Avalanche fans in terms of players who are going to be playing. Arturi Lehkonen is set to return tomorrow against Seattle, so that's a huge boost to their top six. Valerian Nichushkin returns to practice. He is cleared to play as of November the 15th. So we're 11 days out from Nichushkin being back in the lineup for them. And that's 2 out of 6 of those top 6 forwards. So that's going to help quite a bit. And of course, Colton's a little further out and all that, but getting back Lehkonen and Nichushkin should help the Colorado Avalanche's fortunes quite a bit. So again, they're off to a rough start to the season. We do expect them to bounce back and end up in the playoffs. It's one of those things teams go through. Connor McDavid has returned to the ice for the Edmonton Oilers. He will not be playing midweek, but he has not been ruled out for this coming weekend. So McDavid could be back in the lineup for the Edmonton Oilers this weekend. So they won't miss him for nearly as long as they could have. Worst case scenario has absolutely been avoided there. And so should be great to see Connor McDavid back in the lineup for them sooner rather than later. Your 3 stars of the week from the National Hockey League. Your first star is Alex Ovechkin. Absolutely amazing week for him. 4 games, 5 goals, 4 assists, 9 points. If he has another week like this, then we're back to the very real possibility of him passing Gretzky this season. It is remarkable that Ovechkin, approaching 40, is still able to do this. It is unheard of in the NHL's history that somebody of that age is able to do what he's doing. So it's been a lot of fun to watch. Marty Necas is your second star of the week for Carolina. 3 games, 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points. Necas is on the best run of his career at this stage. Necas absolutely has the talent to be a 100-plus point player in the NHL level. And right now he is showing that for Carolina, a team that is not short on guys who can score goals and points. And then the third star of the week is Sidney Crosby. So 2 out of 3 older players by NHL standards. 3 games for Crosby this week, 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 points. We knew he was going to break through and start scoring again. He is back to being above a point per game. Keep in mind that if he can actually finish the season above point per game, I believe he ties or passes Gretzky on the all-time list of players with the most seasons at above a point per game in NHL's history. But either way, Crosby's still one of the all-time greats, even if he doesn't do it. Philip Broberg, lower body injury for him with the St. Louis Blues. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. This is a heavy blow for that blue line. Broberg's been fantastic since coming over from Edmonton via the offer sheet, and has made that team, the organization, and everybody responsible for that offer sheet, whether it was just Doug Armstrong or if others in the organization discussed it with him, looks genius at this point. Holloway's been pretty good as well, but Broberg's been a home run. So while I would say that Holloway was a pretty good double, I would say that Broberg's been the home run so far. So him being out 4 to 6 weeks will have a negative impact on that blue line. The Blues sitting at 6-6. They're right on the cusp of either proving they could be a really good playoff team or maybe showing not. But again, there's a lot of teams in that position right now. Which brings us to the Ottawa Senators. The Sens look like they're about to get healthier. Zub, full participant in practice. He is traveling with the team and could return to their lineup tomorrow. They are in Buffalo, of course, tomorrow. So, yeah, I cheated and looked at the preview board. I do that. But yeah, Zub traveling with the team may very well be in the lineup. When somebody's a full participant traveling with the team, there's a good chance they're going to play. Pinto returned to practice today, but he left halfway through. Travis Green saying that was the plan. They knew he probably wasn't going to be out there for the full practice. And the hope is that Pinto's, trending towards a return soon. Although I haven't seen an exact timeline of when Shane Pinto's going to return to the lineup. But the Sens are doing pretty well. And while their record looks a bit middling, I still think the Sens are playing really well. And once they get Pinto and Zub back, that should help the record all the more. So we shall see how that all turns out. Nick Ehlers with the empty netter yesterday for the Winnipeg Jets. He is now the number 1 scoring Danish or Denmark-born player in NHL history. 474 career points. He passes Frans Nielsen. He also did it in fewer games than Nielsen did to get to that level. So Nick Ehlers, and of course they ask him if he's like the, Denmark's Wayne Gretzky, and he's like, no. I always find that weird when they're like, hey, this is the Wayne Gretzky of, insert country here. It's not necessary. It's not comparable. You can't just say Gretzky and just make that the comparison. But at any rate, Ehlers staying, very humble about it. The Winnipeg Jets going about their business kind of quietly, honestly, for a team that's 11-1. Not a whole lot to talk about with them in terms of injury news and everything, which is related. Usually teams that do very well, especially in the playoffs, you look at their injured list and go, you know what? They're not missing as many players as other teams. That being said, Kyle Connor left yesterday in the third period. I believe it was a concussion spotter that took him out. Kyle Connor was at practice today and looked good. So may not miss time, may not miss much time if he does miss any time. And of course, for the Winnipeg Jets, they don't want to lose Kyle Connor for any amount of time because he has been absolutely fantastic. So in yesterday's game between Boston and Seattle, Pastrnak was benched for the third period. Now, Pastrnak, he's not exactly disagreeing with the benching, but he's not happy with it, and I would hope he's not. The moment that a guy's like, yeah, I got benched, these things happen, it's fine. That's the moment you know that the guy's got to go because he has no competitive spirit, and it's got to be wounding to your pride. Pasternak's had a tough start to the season. So I've mentioned how he is Boston's key guy offensively, obviously, and so teams are going to key on him. The other problem is bad turnovers. They're the bad turnovers that Pastrnak has, and there's always going to be those, completely understandable, and you can kind of overlook them when he's scoring and he's at that 100-point pace, but when he's not, they stand out a bit more. And when the team's record isn't great either, they stand out a bit more. So yesterday there was a turnover that led to some pretty good chances for Seattle, and so he was benched for the third period of that game against Seattle, and he only has one 5-on-5 goal so far this season, so that's something he needs to work on. And also, he admits he hasn't quite found that chemistry with Elias Lindholm. And that's the thing. You can go out and get forwards that project to have a bunch of points and look like, everything's going to work out well. But you never quite know how they're going to gel together on a line until it's taken place. So this is why when teams add a player, I go, yep, this looks like it could work. However, we never know. That's part of the reason why. Because sometimes that chemistry just isn't there. And so Pasta's, doing his best to say all the right things right now. But it has been a rough start to the season, even though he is Boston's leading scorer. The turnovers and everything, and I guess Jim Montgomery decided that was it. Because there is some speculation about Montgomery's job and how safe that is because he's in the final year of a contract. And until you get an extension as a coach, they call that a lame duck coaching session. So we'll see how things go with Boston from here. They've won back-to-back games, both via a shutout. Pastrnak being benched. We'll see how he does in the next game. The next game for Boston being in Toronto. Toronto fans going, crap. So, at any rate, we'll see how Pastrnak does in the next game against Toronto. And, I think he'll bounce back and have a pretty good game, but you just never know. Zach Benson. He's been out for a while for Buffalo. He could return tomorrow against the Ottawa Senators. Benson has a pretty good top 6 upside to his game. I absolutely could have mentioned him in the young players video I did this morning. Went with Jack Quinn. Benson hasn't played as many games, obviously. But I do like Benson's game a lot, so we'll see how he is for their attack upon his return. The Buffalo Sabres, a team that really want to turn things around, and getting healthy could be a good start for that. The New York Islanders, who are beat up, Romanov and Riley, questionable for tomorrow's game versus the Penguins. They asked Patrick Roy about being down to 4 defensemen. I did kind of chuckle when he talked about, hey, we were down to 4 defensemen in Colorado when we won the Cup in 2001. And, they had Rob Blake and they had Ray Bourque. And he mentioned how the 5-6 defensemen on that team only played between 5 and 8 minutes a game. So that's kind of how he plans to deploy the defense with so many players out. But, Romanov and Riley are seen as questionable for tomorrow's games against the Penguins. And we'll see how things go for the New York Islanders, a team that's been struggling with scoring so far this season. So this is kind of an interesting piece of news, and I've had people asking me, when are you going to talk about the Four Nations rosters and all this? I don't want to speculate on who does or doesn't make the Four Nations rosters. I'm not sure exactly what the plan's going to be with who does or doesn't make it. But Jiri Lehtinen, the general manager of the Finnish team, is not ruling out Patrik Laine for Finland and saying, let's just give it a month. So he basically is saying, look, we don't have to name our teams now. I'm not going to tell you who is or isn't on the team. And if Laine trends back into the lineup for Montreal over the next few weeks here, and if he looks good, he has a shot at the roster. And he should. Laine's track record playing for Team Finland's not bad. when he represents his country, he has a pretty good track record, so it would make sense for Lettinen to wait until the very last minute before deciding who is or isn't on the roster and seeing where Laine might fit in. It is always interesting to see how Finland puts together a roster. I've always been surprised, and I don't know how I still get surprised by this, how you will look at, to a man, each player on Team Canada, Team USA, and of course Sweden and Finland, and these are the four countries. You might look at Finland and go, I don't know. You may not have the same star power. You may not have a team that looks as deep. But as a team, very often they play almost a flawless game on an international stage, and they surprise people. And somehow Finland still surprises people. So if Finland wins the Four Nations, I wouldn't be entirely surprised. And with Lettinen as the general manager, that's a pretty good pick. He was a pretty smart hockey player. I think he would have been a good coach at the NHL level too. Didn't happen, but yeah. So we'll see how that Finnish team looks. But I don't want to get into speculation. When the rosters are announced, I absolutely can look through the rosters. We can debate which ones are the strongest of the rosters and why the Finns are going to end up winning it anyways. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. So on what continues to be a very blustery day outside, thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.